Only you, as you're plummeting to your death, would be thinking about sex, Nigel.
Well, once in my life, the right thing to do was to sit there and say absolutely nothing.
You can't say that's wrong.
It's wrong, but it's irrelevant.
It is wrong.
It's irrelevant.
But it's wrong.
Utterly irrelevant.
Nigel Farage, you are one of the most divisive, controversial, yet undeniably successful politicians of our lifetime. Do you slightly pinch yourself that this sort of pursuit, really, of one goal has come off in such spectacular fashion?
No, I simply can't believe it. I'm still not sure it's happened. I thought for years I was going to become the patron saint of lost causes. And it's all happened so quickly, hasn't it?
It must be, thick skin notwithstanding, it must be occasionally a little unsettling that you can arouse such passions for and against.
I'm thrilled by it. It means we've got real politics back.
Do you care whether people like you or not?
Not particularly.
Really?
Not particularly. I've spent 17 years, inside an institution trying to effectively destroy it. Can you imagine how popular I am in Brussels? I mean, I'm the most hated figure that's ever been in that place. So I'm surrounded... Every time I get up to speak, hundreds of people boo and jeer. Do you know what, Piers? I couldn't care less.
You also have fans. This lady describes you as her hero. Do you remember her?
Oh, yes. Now, she had a tattoo of my face put on her arm, and then she wanted me to sign it with a marker pen.
Let's have a look.
That's it. That's it.
I mean, that's not coming off in a hurry, is it?
No.
I mean, no offence, but you're not Leo DiCaprio. It's like...
When I heard about her, I thought, gosh, she must be really very, very strange. And I met her. She seemed perfectly normal. I can't quite work it out.
She paid £130 to have your head tattooed on her forearm there.
We're lucky it was the forearm, eh?
Has fame turned you, do you think, into a rather bizarre sex symbol?
I think it's infamy, really, don't you?
Yeah, but
no.
infamy can do it too.
No, I don't think it has. No.
We know that the world's worst mass murderers get a lot of female fans. I'm not saying you're a mass murderer, but... yeah.
Crikey, oh, right.
Your friend and advisor, Andy Wigmore, told us that you get...
Oh, he says everything. Oh, I know. What's he said now?
Old grannies come racing up to you and plant huge, great big kisses on a daily basis on you.
Yeah, I seem to be doing very, very well with a certain age bracket.
You're the older woman's crumpet,
Yeah,
the granny crumpet.
Yeah, I think so.
The only more seismic political earthquake than Brexit was, of course, in America, where Donald Trump, a non-politician, became President of the United States. Very quickly, you were in there, in Trump Tower. Let's take a look at a picture taken that day. Well, you didn't do the thumbs up, which was a bit of a...
No, when he was doing the thumbs up, I was saying, what a guy.
But there you are, the second best friend in Britain to the president.
Well, I didn't know it was a competition, Piers.
The next day, Trump tweeted, "Many people would like to see Nigel Farage represent Great Britain as their ambassador to the United States. He would do a great job." This was the first anybody in Great Britain had ever thought of this. Yeah. So it seemed to be he was just igniting a rocket there. When you heard about that, what did you make of it?
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I have to tell you, to be honest with you, I'd never actually thought of the words Farage and ambassador going together in the same sentence.
You're not the only one.
Absolutely amazing.
Nigel, it's fair to say that so far you've had an extraordinary journey. You were flying, you were in mid-air, and then suddenly you know there's a big problem. How did it start? I mean, when did you know you were in trouble?
Well, when the Mayday call went out, but that was a pretty good clue. It was just me and the pilot in it, you know.
So there's just two people on the plane?
Yeah.
And you hear him make a Mayday call. Now, that is quite a moment in a man's life.
Yeah. And I say, what's wrong? And he explains, we're losing not just control, but, of course, we're going to crash. Initially, it was denial. This really can't be happening. Surely this is a bad dream and I'm going to wake up in a minute. Then it's a sort of strange sort of terror, I suppose. No, I don't think that's an exaggeration. As it got closer, a strange resignation. And I did have a vision of what it was going to be like. I sort of imagined a bang on the head and blackness, and that was it. It was almost like a premonition of what it might be. And then the noise, a huge bang. And then, almost in slow motion, the plane goes over. So the whole world's going like this, and then you stop. But that wasn't the scariest bit. I remember thinking then, God, we're covered in fuel. So I thought, this blooming thing's is gonna burn, and nobody will ever know that I survived the crash.
The pilot was badly injured as well.
He wasn't hurt as badly as I was in terms of bone breaks, but he had a lot more cuts, and you know, he bled pretty heavily. And it took them a long time to get him out of the wreckage. He was trapped in the metal. But he was taken to a different hospital.
How long were you coming down where, for a moment of Mayday,
5 minutes or so.
I mean, that's an
It's
incredibly long time.
It's a long time.
To be thinking about your potential death.
Yeah, it's a long time. It was a long time.
You've said that as that process was happening, you thought about texting your family.
Do I text people? Do I ring people? And then I thought, no, wouldn't it be awful? Particularly if you did, you know, snuff it a few minutes later. These sort of messages would haunt them. I thought it would be the wrong thing to do. I also reasoned that anything I did or anything I said would be a distraction to the fella who was brushed up against my left arm, and I reasoned that he didn't want to die any more than I did. So for once in my life, the right thing to do was to sit there and say absolutely nothing.
So, you know, this sort of cliche, your life flashes before you, but it actually did. And you began thinking about random stuff like ex-girlfriends.
All sorts of things went through my mind like that.
I mean, only you, as you're plummeting to your death, would be thinking about sex, Nigel.
Well, that wasn't. That's maybe taking it a bit far.
What other inference can we take?
But I was thinking about relationships that had gone wrong, that had gone right.
You were thinking about women as you plummeted.
I thought about that. I thought about family as well. I thought about all those things.
God forbid I'm ever in that situation.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine, as it's darting down to my potential death, that I'm able to sit back and go, wow. I remember Rachel.
It was.
Dolores.
You're in the right territory, but slightly the wrong inference.
Right.
And then at the end I thought, God, what a blooming mess this is going to leave behind for everybody.
Let's go back to where it all started. You were born Nigel Paul Farage in 1964 in Kent. At the age of 10, you went to Dulwich College, a prestigious public school in South London. You ran a profitable business at school. Do you remember the business?
Silver was quite a big thing. We did buy and sell some physical silver when I was
You were a silver dealer at school?
Well, yeah, it was the time of the Nelson Bunker Hunt boom, so we did rather well out of that.
So you were trading silver. I was talking about a shoe shine business.
Oh, no, we didn't
even know you were trading silver.
No, it seemed to me that some of the younger lads were keen to make some money, and here was a way that I could sort of advertise the services and make a little cut in the middle.
Did you do any of the shining yourself? Or?
Good Lord, no, it was ridiculous.
It's been said that some of your teachers wrote a letter to the headmaster objecting to you being made a prefect in the sixth form because of your political views. Some of them alleged that you were a fascist.
Oh, yeah.
Another one said that on one occasion they'd heard you singing a Hitler Youth song.
I mean, that was just ludicrous.
Not true?
No, that's absolute cobblers.
Can you remember the final words of your former teacher, David Ems, on your last report?
Yeah, he was the headmaster. Yeah, he did say that the school would miss me.
He said life at the school will not be the same without him.
Yes.
It's not quite the same as missing you. A slight bit of Farage spin there.
Do you know, I think if you're a little unconventional in your approach to life and the way you go about things, you need some backers. You need some people who say, actually, this guy's got some great qualities. And yeah, he was one of the first people that, you know, when I was a teenager, thought I had what it took. And when I rang him, he advised me that he would be voting to leave in the referendum. I was very pleased.
That must have been I
was very pleased.
That must have been a great moment for you, actually.
Yeah, that meant a lot to me.
All very proud. How difficult is it to be married to Nigel Farage?
I just think very difficult. I just think before I was in politics, it was pretty tricky. But, yeah, very difficult. I mean, you know, what this job... I mean, it's all right, isn't it? I can take the abuse. It doesn't really bother me. but it has had an effect on everybody around me. So there's the nasty side of it. But I suppose, if I'm honest about it, my complete fanaticism for the UKIP thing, the cause, and I guess I did put that above everything else. There's no question about it.
That was your priority?
It's probably a rotten thing to say, but yes. I suppose being in politics, it wasn't a job. It was almost like a calling. It was almost like,
It was a life.
It dominated my life. So I do think that probably a lot of people around me have paid quite a big price for that.
How did you meet Kirsten?
Business trip.
Where?
Business trip. In Frankfurt. I was always out on the road, always punting, always looking for new clients, always looking for new business.
And looking for a new wife.
And as it happened, yeah, that's right.
How did you actually meet?
I walked into a trading room, and in fact, yeah, myself and the fella I was with, we weren't feeling at our best. It was 8, 9 o'clock in the morning in Frankfurt, and we'd flown in the night before.
You'd been on the lash with your mate.
we were...
You stumble hungover into a trading room.
That sort of thing, yeah.
And there is your next wife.
And then we went out for lunch and dinner, and there you are. So, and it all happened.
Well, hang on, how did that happen?
She was a bilingual Bund broker. How about that? So
A bilingual Bund broker?
Yeah, German Bunds, German government bonds, and so you have a German telephone in one ear and an English telephone.
And you all go out for lunch?
In the other ear. And that's how we met.
And that becomes dinner?
It sort of roll on through.
How long did it roll on?
Oh, I don't know.
And what kind of rolling did it end up being?
2, 3 in the morning, I'll believe it at that.
2 or 3 in the morning?
Yeah, something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Where did it end, that first?
In Frankfurt.
Obviously, you're English, she's German. When England played Germany at football, that must be quite a tense day in the Farage household.
No, she's got a whole load of German flags.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah.
What, they all come out?
Out of the windows and all that, yeah.
I mean, it's just so ironic, isn't it? That here's you, the great UKIP trailblazer, taking on the European establishment, and there's your wife with her German flags.
But I've got an English one too.
Rival flags.
Yeah, it's quite competitive.
She says that you retaliate to the flags by chanting a certain chant.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Anything you'd like to... I think you know what I'm talking about,
do.
Nigel.
Yeah.
Do you want to give us a little rendition?
Would that be the 2 World Wars and World Cup one?
Yeah. You actually chant that at your German wife?
Well, it has happened.
I mean,
It's all right.
this whole image of the flags in the Farage house,
That is
you
right.
chanting about warfare.
Yeah, well, I get a bit of stick back too. But no, it's quite funny, really, isn't it?
There have been rumours about your marriage, raging around. You've got a home in town. Would you describe the marriage as on the rocks?
No, I describe it as being a bit like most others, really.
It is?
Well, they all have ups. I mean, all marriages, all relationships have huge ups and downs. You know,
I mean, it must have been an incredible strain. I mean, for your wife, she's obviously a private person. She wouldn't take part in this programme, didn't want to be on screen, didn't want to be that person.
Yeah.
All these rumours flying. You've already said you haven't been there for 95% of the time and so on. This is not a conventional scenario for a relationship.
No, of course it isn't.
And I'm not judging you at all.
No, of course it
I
isn't.
just think, I mean, would you think that the marriage could survive what you've been through?
Well, if it still exists now, it could possibly survive anything, couldn't it?
Does it properly
I'm
exist?
hoping. One of my hopes is that life will start to get a little bit more normal going on from here. I hope. It can't be as mad as it's been, can it?
Are you a good dad?
I don't know. I like to think I am. We probably all like to think we are. I do care about it. I mean, a lot. I can't think anything else matters more.
You were diagnosed with testicular cancer in your early 20s. That moment when your first son was born, given what you'd been through, maybe being infertile, not being able to have a child and so on, to have your child
Amazing.
there, what was that moment like for you?
Absolutely amazing. I was so, so happy. It was an amazing moment. Absolutely amazing moment. Wanting to have children. I'd always thought I would at some point. You think, well, maybe I can't. Bad feeling. So, yeah.
I mean, even for someone who's not necessarily a very emotional guy or prone to big emotion.
Yeah. No, that was a big moment.
It seems to me that might have been a moment for you that was
Big moment.
a very real emotional moment.
No, big moment. And he's 28 now. God, I feel a bit old, really.
In 2006, you were the subject of a kiss-and-tell story involving a Latvian TV reporter. She claimed that you met in the local pub, had sex 7 times using ice cubes.
Well...
And that you snored like a horse afterwards.
Well, now you know it's Jackanory, don't you? I mean... No,
Sounds like a great night, Nigel, but
do you know, I mean...
How much of that sentence, which is not one I ever thought I'd read on this show, but how much of that sentence is accurate?
Very little.
You went to the pub?
Yes.
You met a Latvian TV reporter?
I don't think she was a TV reporter.
And you went back to her house?
Yeah, because the pub had closed. And that was a big mistake.
Were there ice cubes?
No.
No ice cubes?
No. No.
What did happen?
Absolutely nothing.
I mean, would you categorise your behaviour over the years as being a naughty boy when it comes to women?
Not been perfect, but it's not been that bad.
How do you feel about it? Do you look back at these things and think, shouldn't have done that? Or do you think, no, that's just the way life...
Do you know what? I don't look back at anything.
I get that feeling with you.
I don't look back at anything.
Regret doesn't seem to play a massive part
I look forwards. I look for... Hopefully, through all aspects of life, you learn from things you've got right, things you've got wrong, but I'm not a great one for looking back. I'm looking ahead. You got to.
Last year's referendum, clearly a defining moment for the country, for you personally. I suppose the obvious question is, why this issue? Why, of all the issues you could have chosen, why were you so passionate about getting us out of the European Union?
Virtually every aspect of our commercial lives have been given away to be run by a European project over which we had so little say. So to me, it was fundamental. You know, should we actually have the basic facets of a nation? And a nation controls its borders, makes its laws, and puts its own people first. That is what a nation does. And that, I felt, is what we'd surrendered. And a bunch of gutless career politicians, without ever telling us the truth, were happy to give that away. And I thought, you know what, the hell with them. I'm going to do something about it, and I did.
There's another side to all this, obviously, the more contentious side. In 2006, David Cameron described UKIP as a bunch of fruitcakes, loonies and closet racists.
Yes.
He said in one interview, British people should be wary of Romanian families moving into their street.
No, it wasn't Romanian families. It was how would you feel if a gang of Romanian men moved in next door to you? Would you be comfortable? I said, well, of course people wouldn't be comfortable. I was reflecting the truth. Frankly, you wouldn't be happy if a group of any men moved in next door to you.
But when you attach a label to them like Romanian, what you're basically doing is demonising a country.
Well, I was asked
people that come from that.
This is the old trick, isn't it? I was asked a question, I gave an answer.
Right.
I just shouldn't have answered it. But
so it was a mistake?
Yeah, I just shouldn't have answered it.
But do you understand that when that plays out, people look at you and they think, well, maybe there is a bit of truth then to this. Maybe he has got a bit of racism to him.
Well,
it sounds racist.
Yeah, but it's not racist, obviously. But that's what people do try to do.
It depends. I mean, people do think that kind of
comment
is
racist. Our policies are common sense policies.
I get that. I get that what you're saying. But I also get that when you say things like that, it plays into the narrative at the time that UKIP has a whiff of racism about it.
When you look at the sheer hundreds of hours of interviews and speeches I've done, you really struggle to find anything you can put in that category.
The problem you had was a lot of UKIP members behaved in a manner that played into that narrative, and I'm going to take you through some of them.
No.
Well, a UKIP councillor, David Sylvester, blamed the 2013 storms and floods. Well, across the country on the legalisation of gay marriage.
Yeah. Do you know, whilst that was happening...
If you say I mean,
hang on.
He's a UKIP
whilst
councillor.
That was happening...
Behaving like a fruitcake, loony
He had been a
bigot.
Tory councillor for 22 years on Henley Town Council and had said those things for 22 years. You'd never heard of him. The media would never covered anything he'd done. He joins UKIP. He's front page of the Times.
But what you're doing is a Trump tactic.
It's nonsense.
You're distracting from just a simple question, which is...
Well, if you can't see the logic that this man for 22 years
I'm not
has said
asking about the logic. I'm asking you, when a UKIP councillor blames the storms when he's representing your party at the time on the legalisation of gay marriage and he got suspended from the party, isn't the simplest thing to say, it was outrageous?
This was a deliberate media campaign to paint UKIP out to be something that it wasn't.
Well, hang on, he said it, though.
Well, Do you know what?
Didn't he?
Do you know what? Do you know what? Every week, almost every week, there's a councillor that goes to prison somewhere in this country.
You're offering me other stuff. I'm just asking you to respond to this one guy.
I've stood down as leader. I don't need to sit here in front of you or anybody else and have to defend people I've never met, over whom I have absolutely no authority.
I didn't ask you to defend him.
And I think, frankly, you know, thank God Brexit happened, because this is what they tried to do in this country, to stop Brexit from happening.
Well, hang on.
To pick somebody who was irrelevant.
Nigel, hang on. To
pick somebody who, in this case,
I don't know what journalists
you've
done this to before and whether they roll over.
Was he the party chair?
All you've done is just tell me endless stuff about other people.
It's nuts.
Was it wrong?
He's irrelevant.
Was it wrong?
He's irrelevant.
You can't say that's wrong?
It's wrong, but it's irrelevant.
It is wrong.
It's irrelevant.
But it's wrong.
Utterly irrelevant.
I find this fascinating. You find this so difficult to just say it was completely wrong.
I'm sick of the totally false portrayal of UKIP because of one isolated incident and somebody who said something stupid on the internet at midnight, and that was used as a means of trying to keep Britain in the European Union and trying to blunt UKIP, and it's outrageous and it's monstrous.
What about Godfrey Bloom's speech to UKIP activists where he objected to sending aid to Bongo land?
Well, Godfrey was rather like Boris Johnson. You know, having to deal with Godfrey Bloom was rather like Cameron with Johnson. He will say things occasionally...
Was he wrong to say that?
He was wrong to use the term Bongo land. Was he right about us sending foreign aid to corrupt regimes all over the world when we could spend it better at home? Of course he was right.
You understand why Cameron...
No, Piers, I think you're missing something.
What am I missing?
I've stood down as UKIP leader. I'm not responsible for these people anymore. I'm not interested.
But you were responsible for them.
I've gone. Godfrey Bloom went. He stood down. You know, people who behaved badly went.
The other three quick ones, I'm going to read them out. UKIP member Julia Gasper branded gay rights a lunatic's charter.
I'm sorry.
I'm just going to finish it. You can say what you like at the end of it. Remarked on links between homosexuality and paedophilia. She resigned from the Oxford branch. Andre Lampitt, the star of a UKIP election advert, was caught posting racist tweets, including one saying most Nigerians are generally bad people. He was suspended.
Actually, all you found so far are people who are members of an organisation who've said bad things. Well, in the other parties, they do bad things.
Right.
All right?
But I haven't even asked you a question yet.
But look, I couldn't care less. Don't bother to ask me. I'm not interested. Right. It's gone. You know, I lived through years of this bullshit, frankly, from you people, and I want no more of it.
OK. You see, if I'd been you in this particular circumstance, I'm surprised by your, I would argue, quite a rational response, in the sense that...
Oh, no, it's rational.
But all you had to do was just say, you know what, in all these cases, these people behaved despicably. I distanced myself completely from them.
It is because of these irrelevant people who held no position. They happened to join an organisation, and because of these irrelevant people being demonised by liberal media, I've had to live years, frankly, of being frightened of walking out into the street, all because the media picked out these people and because of these people attempted to demonise me and give me a bad name.
I get that.
And you're surprised...
I get that.
You're surprised 3 years on, where I have to live like a virtual prisoner, that I'm not happy about it.
Have you had a lot of death threats, personally?
Plenty, yeah.
But ones that are credible?
I don't know. I just don't know.
Does it keep you awake at night?
No. No. There's no point worrying about it.
Do you regret anything that UKIP did in your tenure?
I regret, perhaps sometimes we could have been a bit cleverer in terms of how we dealt with questions and interviews. Yes, I regret one or two individuals who either used it for their own advantage or allowed those that wished us harm to do it to us. But overall, do you know the truth of it is, it's an amazing story, actually, that hundreds of political parties have been formed in the last 50, 60 years, and most of them just crash into the dust. And this one, you could argue that UKIP has been the most successful party in history.
No question. No question. So, in terms of one issue, no question.
Yeah.
Was it worth it?
Well, it had to be done.
But was it worth it for you?
Yes. Ultimately, it was. But, yeah.
What would your mum say?
I think it was worth it, but it's come at a price. Of course it has.
Your love of military history there is interesting as a backdrop to the campaign you fought.
I do think that our nation did an extraordinary thing in the 20th century twice, and we did it not just for us, we actually did it for the rest of Europe too. These places in France now are visited by millions of people every year, and it's a subject that I'm deeply fascinated by.
What are you going to do? I mean, you've achieved this extraordinary thing, your early 50s. Your mum said the world's your oyster, and it is. You could go to America and work for President Trump in some capacity. You could stay and perhaps become an MP here. What do you want to do?
I've got to see the Brexit process through. You know, we've won the war, but we must win the peace. I will see out my time in the European Parliament. So I'll be there until the spring of 2019. I still lead a group in the European Parliament, so I still want to go there regularly to make my helpful, constructive suggestions and speeches.
You must be the smuggest man in Brussels.
But it's great sport, it really is. I love it.
The obvious logic of that is that, of course, nobody thought someone like Donald Trump could become president. Could you envisage a situation where Nigel Farage becomes Prime Minister?
I've never thought of myself as that, no. I think it's
could you see that?
I think it's unlikely, but what Brexit showed, what 2016 showed, is that all of the old certainties are out of the window.
Would you like to be Prime Minister?
Not really, no. This country would have to go through disappointment post-Brexit on a huge, huge scale. If this political class let us down on Brexit, then anything could happen.
Then you would be there?
Anything could happen.
To pick up the pieces and
if it fell
put it right?
If this falls to bits, anything could happen.
So we could end up with the White House with Donald Trump, number 10 Downing Street with Nigel Farage.
I'll do that.
Where's my gig in all this?
Well, once you've apologised on behalf of the liberal media for the way you've treated me, the world's your oyster, Piers, you know?
Nigel Farage.